everyone, and welcome to another episode of Why People Do What They Do, where we speak to talented individuals from various fields. Today, we have the multi-talented Jojo Struys with us. Jojo, thank you so much for spending your Saturday morning with us here. I was very excited to talk to you before this because you are a multi-talented individual. You've started in business school and then you ventured into modeling, television, and now doing what you are currently doing, which we would explore in a bit. But I would really like to start from a very important point of reference, which is your childhood and how you got to where you are right now, because this show is essentially about why people do what they do.
You know why I'm laughing, right? Because my parents recently were at a function and they said, we have no idea, how we produce like this health nut because they don't exercise, they're complete couch potatoes. So I think, it's hard to say how a child's going to turn out. Mm-hmm. And I have two older sisters and, we're all really, really different. Mm-hmm. So the only thing I could tell you about my childhood is how it's influenced what I do right now is I feel I was brought up with a lot of love, and my parents knew that I was a different type of child, and I think they just accepted it, So
it's not something that you've always wanted to do or knew that you were going to pursue later on in the wellness and health space?
No, not necessarily, but then again, the signs were always there. I feel that when you're doing something that you would do anyway, as in you would help people if you could, you would talk to them if they had a problem. My mother used to see me on the phone for ages and she goes, why are you on the phone for so long? And I said, well, someone needed me and a friend had a problem, and so she says, I think you're going to wind up being a counselor.
Even you were young?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old were you then?
Even when I was a teenager, it seemed as though I had this neon sign, got problem, come to me. So I was always the person who, would be ready with advice and, like a bit of a mama son, even though I was very young. And in later years, even my sisters sometimes would come to me for advice, yeah.
You were, the community and a counselor to your sisters, your friends. Where do you go to school and how do you end up modeling after that?
Okay, so I was in school in Singapore. I grew up in the early years in Singapore, and then I ended up going to boarding school in Australia. It was an all-girls, very strict Catholic girls' school. And I've never actually been one to be religious, I'm just more spiritual and I respect all faiths. But that was an experience to just be in such a structure. I felt kind of confined, but I made some great friends there and I learned a lot about a different culture, and every country is different. So being in Australia for boarding school ended up taking me all the way up until university. So I did a business degree, and I've always been drawn to the arts. But I just thought that going to business school would be helpful. It's more generic. I never knew actually I was going to do business. I thought I would go back, to Singapore and just get a 9-to-5 job in the corporate world, and that never happened. So.
But what do you think that you were going to pursue when you were in university, when you were pursuing your business degree? In your head, right, at that time, at that point in time, do you think that, okay, I'm going to pursue this? I think you took marketing, right? Yeah. So do you think that you were going to do branding in the corporate world, in one of those big corporations?
I think maybe there was a part of me that thought it'd be nice to have a business one day, but I couldn't even tell you what it would be.
Okay.
And I thought going to business school would just be a good grounding and foundation, because initially I actually thought I would want to be a lawyer. So when I was a little kid, I thought, okay, I'm going to be a lawyer, And I felt that maybe I was just saying that because it seemed like a good thing to say. But really, when it came down to
the idea of it, right?
The idea
of being a lawyer.
But when I was in business school, I did do elective units, and I did corporate law, which, truth be told, I found that kind of fascinating. But I didn't end up becoming a lawyer, right? And so when I graduated, I went back initially to Singapore, and I got spotted at a nightclub, and someone said, would you want to do a little bit of modeling? And I thought, well, after my business degree, I wanted to learn psychology, and I was starting to do units by correspondence with another university in Australia. And because I kept studying on, and I've always enjoyed study and knowledge, and I'm fascinated by the power of the mind, I thought, why don't I just do a bit of modeling to fill in the blanks before I get a 9-to-5 job, which never happened. And so that's how it started. And modeling was one thing led to another thing. And as a model in Singapore starting out, and I'm too short for the catwalk, so I didn't do catwalk stuff. I did, commercials and things like that and print. I secured a role in a movie called The Chicken Rice War.
Chicken Rice Wars.
Yeah, it's like Romeo and Juliet, but it's two chicken rice sellers and their kids fall in love, and Pierre Peng was in it with another girl called Lam Mei Yi, and I played the best friend of the Juliet character, and that was really fun, and same thing, I honestly thought I was just going to do a bit of modeling after I did this movie, which won an award in the Toronto Film Festival.
Nice.
Even though it was a locally produced film in Singapore by an MTV director, I still didn't really think it was going to lead to doing more in entertainment. But as luck would have it, I started modeling, or I was passing through Malaysia, did a bit of modeling here, and I heard that someone was looking for a part in Kopitiam, and I thought it was a cameo, Oh, maybe it's just some girlfriend, one episode, and I had acting background from the film I did in Singapore, so I said, okay, I'll go and audition for it. But I show up, and it turns out that they needed a main cast, because one of the main actresses in Kopitiam who plays a lawyer, it was Lena Teo who played the lawyer on Kopitiam.
You did as Malaysia after that, right?
That's right, and she plays a bitchy lawyer, and they needed someone to fulfill that role. And I said, how long, how many episodes are we talking about? And it was like literally four seasons of Kopitiam, which is 1 year of television, right? Once a week. I got the part, and it was the beginnings of me starting to be based in Malaysia. And my parents kept saying, when are you coming back? I said, I'll just do this, and then,
okay,
I'll get that job, right? Which just never happened. Yeah.
It's so funny because yesterday, as I was talking to a colleague about our weekend plans, and I told her that I'll be speaking to you for this podcast of ours, and she said oh, Jojo, I used to watch her on Kopitiam.
Wow, that's going back a long way.
So you've got at that time modeling, television. What was it like for you, and how many years were you in this space from television? I used to listen to you on radio as well, on Mix FM. And then what was the transition? What was the trigger point for you to switch to what you're doing right now, which is wellness space, right? Like, what was the trigger point for you? Was it something that you wanted to pursue, but at that point in time you thought, okay, you know what, I'm going to try to pursue this while also pursuing acting and hosting?
Yeah, it's a good question, because some people wonder, when did I get into wellness? But I feel as if it was always there, because from the time I was small, I was fascinated by the mind and what it can do, which is why even in business school, I did an elective in psychology, and it fascinated me, just the way people tick. I love culture, I love people from different walks of life. It was really, a natural transition to be where I'm at right now, but it took me a while to get there, because what happened was, after acting, I ended up doing a talk show where all the people on set would be celebrities in pajamas. It was called Pillow Talk, and I did a year's worth of that. So it was 4 seasons, I think, of Pillow Talk, and I would interview people every week, and that fascinated me from, do you have commitment phobia and why? And I would interview, singers, actors, writers, just people from different walks of life, but they were usually in entertainment in some form, even journalists. And I felt that my love for psychology and just what makes you tick really made me enjoy that talk show. Whereas some people say, oh, it's really sexy, and it was not that sexy. You could come with, your teddy bear pajamas, right? But it was the idea of it being pillow talk that was sexy, but actually for me it was, wow, this is why she did what she did. This is why she checked his phone, because she just didn't have trust that,
Right.
he was speaking to his accountant, not another woman. And I just found it very fascinating. Yeah.
Right, and then that was the point where you thought, okay, I'm going to go into the wellness space. But it seems to me now, speaking to you, that it was all very transitional, that it was all very seamless. It wasn't something that you wanted to do one day when you woke up and like, I'm going to make the switch. So it's very transitional, seamlessly.
In a way, because after acting, which led to doing my own talk show for 4 seasons, I realized that I was used to being on a set, I was used to being around production, and I then had a part. This one was just a 1-episode thing in a reality football series for Gillette, and it's actually where I met my husband now, because I met him on set.
Okay.
And he was briefing me and saying, okay, the guys will be coming in and they've got 2 minutes to impress you, and you'll be eliminating the weakest link on this reality series. And so I met him on set, and what happened was we kept in touch after that, and he wanted to come out of advertising, and he loved the idea of seeing an idea from the seed come to life. And he knew I was always on production. We were tennis buddies, so I mean, I didn't know I was gonna like wind up marrying him, but you know, we started off as friends, and then he said, would you want to, you know, produce a show together? And this is where I felt if I was going to produce something, it had to be an expression of me. Like, so the first show I produced was how do celebrities keep fit, body, mind, and soul. So if you were a celebrity who had a horse and no one knew that you were mad about riding horses, I wanted to know more about that, and how does that help your mind, and how does that help you feel more present. So that was the first show I produced, and I partnered with Michael, and we formed the production house together. And then after that, we just started to produce all kinds of content. So I got into being behind the scenes as well, rather than only in front of the scenes. So we were producing like all sorts of genres. We produced a travelogue on Yuna. We were the first production house to shoot her life from here to LA to New York. And we also did reality formats like the DJ reality series. We shot Miss Universe Malaysia as a reality program like 3 years in a row. Even a kids show. So yeah, we were just producing all sorts of content. But what I really was passionate about was to shoot a travel show that was linked to wellness. And we were so busy with all these other projects. And I said, look, it's on my bucket list. I really want to do this. And then eventually we shot the show called Jojo's Diary of Asia, which ran on Discovery Channel as a travel, de-stress travelogue.
And that's where your love for the different cultures also came to life in that travel.
I've always loved
show.
traveling. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about OhanaJo. So you're the founder of OhanaJo. Tell us what OhanaJo offers. It's a wellness space, a healing space, some would call it as well. So tell us about that and how it came about. What was the inspiration behind that? I know you spoke a lot about, you know, your love for how people would, you know, center around the body, mind, and soul. But what made you realize that, you know, I'm going to start something like a nucleus for people to come and be well together?
You know, the turning point was going to India, because we were living, I will not lie to you, it was stressful, right? I mean, you've got broadcast deadlines that are not going to move any further from you. And basically, I'd always wanted to go to India to study yoga, but not to teach yoga. So I never realized that going to India would one day lead to me coming back
but
with all
this. Were you practicing yoga before that already?
Very quietly. This was just in my own practice.
Okay.
I had already been doing breathing techniques, and you know, for more than 20 years, I would go into MNC companies and do trainings on like inspirational talks or how to manage your stress, and I would incorporate breathing techniques. But it's not like I would go into a company and teach them a yoga class.
Right.
But the breath for me was always there, because that was linked to meditation. So meditation was something I was even studying. I even studied Reiki energy healing when I was 19 years old. So for my friends who, you know, knew that for them, OhanaJo was, gosh, you should have done it earlier, because they've always known me as this type of person. But publicly, I was known as, you know, maybe a radio DJ, a TV host, a speaker, but this was more private. But people who really knew me, they were like, yeah, she's been like that from day one. Even one of my actresses on Kopitiam, Chelsea Ng, she goes, I remember Jojo. But in between like shooting scenes, she was doing tree pose and so, and that was way back when. So it was always there, but it was more hidden. And so when I went to India, I was going to India for myself. I wanted to expand my knowledge. I wanted to just live, sleep, breathe, eat, drink, whatever, yoga. And I just wanted to do it because it was on my bucket list. It was for personal knowledge expansion, and never thought I would come back and teach. But when I returned from India to Malaysia, I was really wanting to share, because you come back with so much information and so much knowledge. And like a turning point was when my husband saw me teaching our housekeeper one-on-one, and he said, look, I could clear some furniture for you in the office. And I said, yeah, really? And that's kind of what happened. So OhanaJo was born literally on the ground of my old office, my production house. Yeah, so I came back and I was in self-practice where I would do yoga every single day. So it was just the way I started my day, and it was my own practice. But then after a while, this desire to share knowledge and everything I learned was starting to grow within me. But I wasn't able to teach at other studios because I also love traveling, and I couldn't commit to being there once a week. And my husband was saying, but if it was your own place, maybe you would commit, And he goes, look, honestly, I could clear the office and tables and give you some space. I don't need so much space. And it was really interesting because I didn't have a website. We had done so much branding work for different companies, even the work that we had done with celebrities. But yet when it came to my own thing, I felt, like a bit nervous about doing this.
That's always the case. It's always easier to do and plan and strategize for other clients, but when it comes to digging deep within yourself and doing what you love,
I was like, I told him I don't even know if anyone's going to come. No one knows me as a yoga teacher. And I found it all very intimidating because, the work I've done is always like B2B, where, someone hires you, you walk out, as an MC for F1, there's like, 10,000 people in the crowd, but I didn't organize the crowd. That's B2C. I just got booked by a company. So for me to put myself out there in front of the final end consumer was a bit scary. And I was like, and no one even knows I do this. And he goes, it doesn't matter. He goes, even if one person came, he goes, you'd be able to shift one person's life. And he was right. And I was a columnist with a newspaper, and there would be people who would come to me and say, I read your article and you really inspired me. Or they heard a capsule on the radio and someone said, just because of you, I was driving home from work one day, and I got home and I told my husband, let's not buy that house. Like, it's not even about how big the house is. We need to be happy first. And it was just so, and I thought, it's not about me, I felt you have to put your fear, which is your ego, aside, because there could be people I could really help out there. I would go to companies like Petronas and do, corporate training, and I would remember, a woman coming up to me going, where can I find you? Where you could find me. Can we follow one of your classes? Didn't have a class. And they were like, do you teach somewhere? Didn't teach anywhere. So they would have to rely on their company booking me the following year, but there was no way they could maintain a practice with me. And I was like, wow. And they were inspired. It was just like maybe 2 hours of their afternoon, but there was nowhere you could go. So, when my husband saw me, teaching, like a friend or my housekeeper a few yoga moves, he goes, Jojo, look, why don't you share? Come, but surprisingly people came, and it wasn't a studio. Like, to me it was like opening the doors of my office. I had just cleared some space, and then put a wall there. I don't think I had a logo at the time. It was really just, okay, I'm going to open my doors and see what happens. And amazingly, people showed up, and these women said, is it the same time next week? And I was like, wow.
Didn't think about that yet.
Is this happening? So I'm like, okay. So I showed up the following week and the following week. I was the only teacher. That's why to me it wasn't like a real studio yet. I was the only teacher on the weekends. And then I thought, some weeks later, a woman goes, is there a package? And I go, package? Oh, this is like, how do I do this? And I'm like, okay, I think I need more teachers. I think I'm actually really doing this now. Yeah.
Okay. And how then, what was the next step for you after that? Like, do you continue teaching classes at your office and hiring more teachers after that, or do you shift to a new space altogether? What was the process like for you? How do you find balance in then teaching your classes but at the same time running the business with Michael?
You know, I took a step back from production altogether, and I put my entire heart and soul into this. And I feel like when you're doing something you really love, you come into a state of flow. I felt support, I felt doors opening. I actually couldn't even cope because there was a class I was doing on a Friday night called Sleep Yoga, and I had to call the apps and go, I can't take another person, can you close down the slots? And they went again. And within months of being in operations, I had to actually tell Michael, I think I need more space. And he just looked at me like, and my friends are like, I told you, right? Once she starts, that's it, like she's gonna go. And and I renovated. I ended up kicking my husband out of his own office. I took downstairs
Poor
as
Michael.
well. I know, poor Michael, right? But he's so supportive. I'm very, very blessed. And so we were, on 2 floors. And and that class, right? Not all classes would be so well attended, but it was that class that made me think, I don't have enough space. We would cram in like 21
And
people.
where was this? Where was your
in
first
the
studio?
same
SPK Sunway,
Sunway
Damansara.
SPK next door to Daisy Park City. And, it's an interesting setup because it's in a residential neighborhood, though it's a commercial office lot. So you have to really know that we are there. So that's the challenge. I'm thinking, I don't know if people know I even exist there, but they find us, right? And so these were our humble beginnings. And, that particular class gave me the notion I need more space. And that class was the only class in the week which combined yoga, which was deeply relaxing. It was called Sleep Yoga, with sound healing. I brought the crystal bowls out, another hidden part of myself. This was from my bedroom. I'm like, I'm going to bring out my crystal bowls, and people would talk about the healing that it triggered off, physically. Sometimes people's back, like tension in the back, would ease, or they would actually understand themselves better because they come into that quiet space. So much profound healing happens to us when we're deeply relaxed.
Did you learn your sound healing from India as well?
No, I basically I've studied from different schools, from UK, from Australia. I've also studied it by intuition. There was also a Canadian lady who I learned, she's got the largest private collection of gongs in Asia, and I learned how to play the gongs from her. So it's been quite a process, I've also done online courses.
Nice. Well, I'd like to explore with you this phrase that people always talked about. Yoga enthusiasts or people who meditate on a daily basis, they always say that when you hit the mat, you will find clarity. Is this something that you can resonate with?
Absolutely.
What does it mean?
It's because, life on the mat is like life out there. For example, if you are a high achiever in your life and you feel you need to nail it, I need to get this, I need to reach my goal, it's so humbling to be on the mat because you may not be able to get into that pose because you physically just can't reach, or you're not flexible enough. For example, a high achiever who is really hard on themselves in their daily life or their working life, they could be on a mat and they're hard on themselves because they can't perfect the pose. So there are so many lessons you can learn about yourself that if you're a perfectionist, you've got to learn how to accept your body, you've got to learn how to accept the limitations that you might experience on a mat. And also I notice people who are not relaxed in everyday life, when it's time to do that most important posture in yoga, which is to do nothing in Shavasana, they call it the corpse pose, zero activity, you will notice some people who are very tense in everyday life, their hands don't even open in that posture. And the reason why your palms are supposed to face up is because you're supposed to surrender, you're supposed to let go. And it is the hardest thing to do, to let go of your burdens, to let go of your stresses because you might be holding it. Yet, if I told you that stress were rubbish bags, would you carry them around? Would you tuck it under your pillow at night? No, you would throw it away. But people are not aware that they are holding on to their their stresses. And so even when they lay down, you can see it in body language. They haven't fully released, they haven't fully let go, and that can affect their sleep at night. So you've got people who have insomnia who are tense, but they may not look tense in their everyday lives, but at night it affects them because they've got this underlying stress and worry. And if it is not addressed, like whatever you are not dealing with in your waking hours will affect you in your sleep. So I feel that when you are on a mat and you're in meditation and you're in silence, answers come to you. Very often we cannot hear our thoughts, we cannot hear what we're really going through in life because we live in a world with just noise. So there's all this mental clutter, and that's the power of meditation. It clears out the clutter. That's when you really know, wow, I know what I need to do with my kids. I need to slow down in my everyday life. That's why my health is affected. You start to make these connections that you wouldn't ordinarily make if you're too busy just doing. But we're not human doings, right? We are human beings, so we have to learn how to be.
How to be instead of being.
To be. And because we're always so reactive, we're always so caught in the spin of our lives that sometimes we don't even know how we feel. And I feel that OhanaJo is a safe space where we want to bring people through transformative healing experiences, magical experiences that really help you to connect with yourself and to find that connection. We're more interested in how you feel rather than how you look. Yep, you could probably tone your body, you could probably lose some weight on the mat, but it's not our main focus. So many people who come to us have anxiety, they have high stress, and they don't know what to do with it. And there's only, so much you can do. You can't just click your fingers and go, okay, stress, just go away.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to do the inner work. The outer work is like, it's just surface. Like you could have bulging biceps, but you could be one of the most insecure, stressed out people I've ever met. So it's not about how you're looking on the outside. It's really how you're feeling about yourself, how you're feeling about, your level of happiness in life and contentment. Have you been able to access peace? Even a sense of peace, even if you could access it in a minute, it's a golden minute.
I like what you mentioned before about being in a state of flow, right? And I am particularly interested in the concept of balance. I think that everyone is in the pursuit of balance. But do you believe, Jojo, that in order to do the work within, something has got to give? For example, do you have to take a little, like half a step back from work and not be so much of a high achiever? Do you believe that something has always got to give?
I think so, because to achieve that state of balance, sometimes, though you shouldn't wait until there's some blow up in your life to have that moment of, my gosh, I've got to change, I've got to do something different. Like, we shouldn't have to wait, for something to be so extreme. But having said that, I feel when a person does a detox, that's very extreme, right? But sometimes extreme measures produce dramatic results because it's through the detox, maybe clarity of the mind comes, it's through detox that the body feels lighter and the body doesn't want to ingest so much toxins, right? And I feel that we go through ups and downs in our lives, and when you are at the bottom of the barrel, when you're feeling so low and you have absolutely, you're out of options, that's when people might be more daring to take risks or to try something different because whatever they've been doing traditionally in their life has not worked. And I feel that a lot of people do come to us not just for stress. They may actually come because they're trying to maintain their lifestyle of healthy living, but they slip into a sound healing and they have these profound realizations and they go, wow, I actually came here because I like yoga, I like to move my body, but before you know it, they have a clarity of the mind, because when you are in a sound bath, your brain waves can synchronize with these instruments. So what happens is the sound vibrations themselves can trigger off theta brainwave states, and it's when your brain is actually slowing down, things become clearer to you because you're not in the space of cognitive decision making and rational thinking or rapid fire processing. Everything slows down. Some people get lucid dreams. Some people actually feel that your body speeds up in terms of healing. Inflammation goes down, immunity goes up, blood pressure comes down. So when a person's more relaxed, they see their life from a different perspective, which they may not have gotten if they were just doing, so busy on just operating.
And different people would experience different, have different experiences while going through a sound bath. Is that right?
Yes, very much so. Some people get emotional. It can even trigger off, a clearance of emotions that are stuck within you. So that's one. But more often than not, it triggers deep relaxation. So you have different frequencies, and all of life is energy. Everything is energy. So when you are receiving sound vibrations, they're traveling right through you down to the cellular level, because sound actually travels through water, more than 4 times faster than the air.
You mentioned before about when you hit rock bottom, that's where people are prepared to take drastic measures on their well-being. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had to face that in your life?
In different ways. I feel, for example, my husband and I, we were cheated, like in business, and I felt, depending on how you look at it, okay, if you look at the glass half empty, you've experienced a loss. You've experienced, money that you're unsure whether you're going to be able to really ever recover. But then that's material loss. But the emotional gain, the gratitude from the learnings, these are things you cannot even learn in a book. And by looking at it that way, where the glass is actually half full, and I've learned so much from this experience, and I start to focus on all the positives that came forward because of that experience. And sometimes you lose your power because you need to be shown your power, and to be shown what you're actually made of and what you're capable of. And for me, that's a gift. And whatever feeling of being like locked in or closed or bound to something, if that falls away, suddenly whatever was confining you and making you feel like you can't breathe actually is being lifted off you. And now I'm like, wow, this is freedom. This is a gift. But it may not have been if you are stuck,
right,
like a hamster on a wheel, and you feel like you can't get out of something. And this could be anything. This could be in a working sense. It could be in a relationship sense. When a woman feels, or a man, I can't come out of this relationship because I'm stuck. Like, I don't know how to extricate myself. I'm too weak to say no. I can't push this person away. But it's when a person goes through that journey and they realize their own power, they realize, wow, to say no to this person is actually like saying yes to themselves. And that's when they are able to walk away from a toxic relationship, be it at work or even in their love life.
But it also speaks to me about being so objective in your practice. How do you balance that, Jojo, in a sense where, you have to be that voice of reason for yourself while you're also going through all these adversities that you face in life, in business that you mentioned earlier? How do you then balance that?
Okay, I would say that a lot of recent research says that your heart is about 5,000 times magnetically more powerful than your brain. But yet so many people feel that when I rule with my head, that's strength. But even willpower
is rationale, right?
It's rational. They've already said that willpower is like a muscle and it can be depleted. So when a person wants to make a lasting change in their life, and if they use only willpower alone, even to quit an addiction, they may run out of strength because it's like a muscle that can be depleted. But true lasting change, even Tony Robbins speaks about, you could be pushing yourself to do something, or you're pulled to do something which feels like it's not hard, it's effortless because you really want it. And it's like the guy who finds a way to get to the girl because he really wants to, have a moment with her, and he starts to get creative on solutions on how do I get to that girl?
Strategizing, you persevere through
all sorts of things. Nothing is too hard. Nothing is so effortful. So when you want to make a change in your life, and I resonate with that push-pull thing that Tony Robbins was speaking about, is when you are called to do something, it feels like a purpose, it feels like a mission. There is a state of flow because you're not pushing yourself to do it. And I feel that when you are coming from that space, you can really make lasting change. For example, say one of the changes that you want to make is you want to be more at peace, and you feel that you've been living a life that's too busy and too fast,
Too
and you need
high-strung.
to slow down. You're too highly strung, you're too anxious, it's affecting maybe your health. Now, it's easy to know what you should be doing, but are you taking action? Are you doing anything about it? So that's the yang side of things. But in your heart of hearts, if you feel that moment of peace when you are in the moment, it could be when you are in nature, it could be when you're with your kids, it could be when you're on the mat, or you're in a sound bath and you go, I want more of this. This feels so good, you know, and you commit to it. I feel that our heart, is a strong antenna, and sometimes your heart just knows, but we don't listen to it. We ignore the wisdom of it, and then we look back in our life and go, I knew all along. I don't know why I stayed in that for such a long time. I knew. And so deep down, I feel that you have an intelligence that's not just ruled by rational logic. Your heart knows. And when you follow your heart, I feel that you're following a natural flow. And a lot of amazing magic can happen in your life when you're going with that flow, because it feels natural rather than trying to push a river. You cannot push a river.
Can you explain more about state of flow? You mentioned that a couple of times. What is state of flow to you, and is that common? Is that a common thread for different people?
Yeah, a state of flow is being spoken about a lot with athletes, as well as even in positive psychology. It means that a person is effortlessly engaged and fully present. They say that Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel in a state of flow, which is almost like a state of madness, right? Because you are so focused that the surroundings almost just blur away and melt away, because it's like an artist, it's like a person who's composing music. You're so in the moment that you've become one with it, or like a man and a horse riding a horse. So what happens when you're in a state of flow is prefrontal cortex activity slows down, because you cannot process the normal thoughts that are associated with stress, decision-making, or anxiety when you're in that state of flow. That means you have no time to think, so you are fully present. So it's like an athlete. They're not thinking of their email inbox. They are running. They're listening to their breath. They're totally there. So it's an amazing state to be in. And they say that some of the world's best inventions happened all over the world in different industries when they were in a state of flow. Because your other parts of your brain, like your mind expands. You see possibilities beyond rational logic. Because if you were confined by that, you go, no, it's not possible. But so many people who did amazing things in this world, they found a way, because they were not bound by logic. They were not bound by, no, this can't be done. This is impossible. So it's almost like a creative state. So I find the state of flow fascinating, but it's also what experienced meditators, even people starting out, experience. So when you're in a state of flow, it's almost like a very powerful state to be in, because you are not bothered by your usual daily stresses. You're focusing on your breath, you are focusing on the moment, or like how the breeze is blowing my hair. I'm in mindfulness. I'm aware of the breeze, I'm aware of my hair blowing, but I'm not living in the past, I'm not living in the future, I'm right here. It is impossible to be anywhere else when you're in flow. You are present. And the present moment, it's a gift.
What would your advice be for people to achieve that state of flow every single day of their life amid the chaos of everyday life? How do they achieve that state of flow?
You can't achieve it like 24/7, like we have to be realistic, but how amazing to think that to listen to your breath and to anchor yourself in the present moment, the breath helps you to anchor yourself. That's what mindfulness is about. It doesn't mean that you're going to be zen the whole time. It means that you are aware your mind has wandered off, you bring it back. it's gone back into yesterday, it's regretting something you said or did, it comes back to this moment. But if you have no awareness, you're not even aware that you're living in the past and future all the time. So I feel that a state of flow is not something that you're going to be able to live in continuously. But some people are monks, they get close. Even like eating their food is an exercise of being present. You know, everything from walking, your heartbeat, being just so aware of your moment to moment, because life is a collection of moments. So I feel we're not trying to get there. It's not out there, it's in here. It's a feeling of contentment. Like you could be in a traffic jam, and instead of cursing the jam, you're in the jam. And you're in a different state of mind because you have decided to spend your time differently. And when a person is connected to their breath, they could be lining up for their coffee in a cafe, but they're actually in meditation.
Do you do that?
You know, that's the thing. It's all mindfulness. So when I remember to do that, that line for coffee becomes a beautiful moment in time. Or if I'm in a human moment, I'm like, oh my gosh, why are they taking so long? And it's the longest waiting moment because I'm not using...
easier to think about, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Breath anchors your thoughts. You've mentioned before that the way you breathe is the way you live. Can you explain that a little bit more? What does that mean?
The breath doesn't really anchor your thoughts. It anchors you into the present moment because it gives you a point of reference. It's like if I got you to keep looking at a tree, you have a point of reference.
Okay.
The tree may not be there when you need to relax, but your breath is always with you. So that's why it's free, you don't need equipment. It's so good to like focus on your breath. The way you breathe is the way you live. Why do I say this? It's because when a person is very nervous and agitated, your mood state, you are physiologically, moment to moment, your body never lies. So when a person is nervous, they're going to breathe fast, they're going to be breathing in a very shallow way, probably from the upper chest zone. But when a person is relaxed, everything slows down. Your heart rate, your pulse, your blood pressure, your pace of thoughts, they're not rushing anymore. You're able to have space and gaps so you can watch them. So it's, you know.
What does spirituality mean to you, Jojo?
Spirituality, I feel, is it's very different in a way from maybe religion, because I feel that perhaps religions, they tell you this is how it is, this is how it, you know, should be, and they've got their own ways of looking at things, their own rules. But I feel spirituality feels very personal and very individual, like man's own search for meaning in their life and purpose. And spirituality urges you to find your own answers and what works for you. And if that be the case, I would say I'm more spiritual any day than I am religious, because I always say that, you know, for me, the aspect of being spiritual, it's almost like respecting life, being in awe of the fact that we are like a miracle of nature. It's to really marvel at the breath and the beauty of this moment. And it's so broad. Like, what does it mean to say that one is spiritual? I feel it's almost like saying, I don't want to just live in my head, though I know it's so important because I am using, you know, left brain. But the right brain is important too.
That's right.
And then there's even the gut brain. Your stomach will tell you things about yourself as well. But more than anything, I feel it sounds so cheesy, but our heart just knows. Like, there are things that defy logical explanation. When I feel something feels right, it's probably right. Rather than just talking myself into something or talking myself out of something, it can confuse you. And, you know, to me, clarity comes from silence. It comes from meditation. It comes from tapping into the intelligence of your own body. When your body is in fear, it gets very tight. So we need to differentiate. Am I feeling tight on a decision because I'm afraid of my own potential? Then maybe you got to push past that fear. or is my body feeling this uncomfortable because I really don't want to do this. It's not me. And then you ignore and you push past it, and then you get dreadfully uncomfortable, and it's not the thing to do. It's not what you should be proceeding with. So I feel that when you understand yourself better, like it becomes, your body is like an antenna, you know, it just knows, and your heart knows.
What is your routine like, you know, running OhanaJo, managing it, and just making sure that you are centered at all times? And I'm sure in your daily life as well, you've got students coming to you and talking to you and trying to find your center. How do you balance all of that for yourself, not for anyone else but yourself, Jojo Struys? And what is your routine like to make your day the most meaningful it can be?
Well, I feel I have gotten into a habit of waking up and practicing some form of yoga, whether it's breath work, the sun salutations. I think it's so important to move your chi, to move your body. If you don't have time, maybe just stretch so that you're not waking up and just immediately like walking yourself into a shower and getting on with your day. Like
checking emails and checking your phone for messages.
Yeah, don't check your phone the moment you wake up if you can avoid it, because your willpower is strongest in the morning and it gets drained throughout the day. So if you check your phone the moment you wake up, you might find yourself losing energy, especially if you had plans to exercise but you got a disturbing email. It goes out the window. So maybe the world can wait. I always say this, you know, even in my trainings, like if it were just 20 minutes, by then you could have actually done something for yourself. You could have done something to prepare your mind for the day, but no, you've straight away attended to the world. The world can wait another 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah.
What would your advice be to people? It can be from different areas, you know, they want to run their business, they want to find balance in their life, and trying to infuse that balance. What would your advice be for them?
Well, you know, I find it ironic that some of the people who've got less time and are even more busy tend to do even more than people who've got more time and are not using their time productively or efficiently, right?
How is that possible?
Yet everyone's got 24 hours in a day. Haven't you always wondered about that? How are people doing so much with their time? And I think it's discipline. Discipline is a form of self-love. And even if it means waking up earlier so that you actually have a clear start to your day. And they say that in order to change your life, change something you do every day. So it could be these small little shifts that you make, these tiny tweaks that can have profound change. So I say morning regimen is important, having discipline is important. And if a person has discipline, they can start to compartmentalize. But if a person has no discipline, even the plan of spending time with the kids or spending time with your loved ones also goes out the window, because work takes you over, right? You know, because you don't want to just be, you know, living to work. You also want to work to live. You want to live your life. But if you're lucky and your work is your passion, like I can't imagine doing, you know, anything else, because I was doing this even before I was doing this. So if someone needed my help, and if there was a way that I could be there for a person, I would. And I feel that by putting out these classes, though I don't teach every class, I have created a space for people to come where hopefully they can heal. Because I feel that we're more of a healing space rather than a fitness space. Though there's so many yoga classes there, but they're longer than the average class, and they also finish off with sound healing, which is so deeply restorative, not just for the body, but your soul.
How can people find you and find OhanaJo? What are the classes available at OhanaJo?
We have more than 100 classes a month, and I guess you could just jump onto the website, OhanaJo.com, and look for a class that you feel works for you. We have classes that are more physical in nature. We've also got classes that are more meditative, like men who don't want to do yoga. They say, oh, deep sleep healing, we think we can do that, you know, and the fluffy blankets come out. It's really, really relaxing and super comfortable. So not much yoga involved at all, if if not any. And then we've also got classes where you talk about issues, you are journaling emotions, and that's more emotional healing. And that also finishes off with a sound bath, which is just a lovely way to relax and just let go.
And I can attest to that because I've attended your sound healing classes and one of your transformative meditation classes, and I found that really, really helpful. It requires you to dig deep. It can be quite confronting sometimes, but it makes you have that sense of balance or close to it for people who are a little bit struggling and having the internal battle with balance. And I can attest to the fact that men also do it because that was the first time that Dom actually joined a class like that.
Yeah. And because, at the end of the day, everyone's got their own stresses, and I feel it's another outlet. It's another way for you to, come to yourself in some regard. And when people are really willing to make a connection with themselves, things can become clear. It's like, I think I know what I need to do. There was even an entrepreneur who was planting seeds in one of his meditations, because I said, I want you to think of what you want to manifest as a goal, and there's a seed in your hand and you plant it, like a few seeds, right? And it was so vivid. He was actually planting the number of outlets and the number of countries that he wanted to be in. That's by amazing. This date. And when you're in a relaxed state, the subconscious mind it's able to really, set intentions from that type of space. Whereas if you're just conscious, it's really hard to believe. When people go, I'm going to set an intention, okay, fine, I'm going to be rich, it doesn't work that way. Like, you've got to, right? You have to come from a space of belief. In order to do that, one of the ways that helps you journey inward and access yourself is through the breath. You have to be relaxed enough, you have to be present enough. And when people set an intention from that space, it's very powerful.
And intention, so many people have different intentions, but the effects are also different, right?
Correct.
What is your end goal here? What are the results that you want to see with your students, for yourself, for OhanaJo?
Well, I would say largely people are coming in to either let something go, they need to close a chapter or release something, or they have to bring something in. They're trying to bring in a new beginning. So they say that when you are in a sound bath, already your body is being brought into a state of optimal, an optimal state for self-healing to occur. But if you set an intention, they say that intention plus frequency equals healing, because you're taking the sound bath or that meditation even further by setting an intention.
Intention plus frequency equals to healing.
In a way, yeah.
I love that.
It's like a formula from a pioneer in the field of sound, because there's a lot of science behind sound. Like, if right now I said to you, take a deep inhale, okay, so take a deep inhale, exhale, letting go. Now, if I just said, breathe in, breathe out, and that's all you're doing, that's relaxing enough, because you'll get into a rhythm of the breath. But now if I layer this with an intention and I go, okay, dear, we're going to now breathe in and imagine that we're breathing in everything positive. We're breathing in peace. We're breathing in self-love. Okay, so deep inhale. Breathing in all that, and hold the breath and allow all that positivity to circulate within you. And now we're going to exhale all your fear, all your tension. Do you see the difference? We just did 2 breaths. The second breath was with an intention of, as you are breathing out, you're breathing out stress, you're breathing out fear. So you're layering a breathing technique with intention. So when you're in sound, it's the same. You can lay down on the ground and say, I want to let go. I want to let go of my past relationships, because I really want to start fresh. I want to start a new chapter. Rather than just laying down, falling asleep and being relaxed, you can set intentions, because your body will be so relaxed in that state that healing can happen, and your intentions take you further than if you had just done it through a conscious mind.
And letting go, is that a critical point for someone to really live their best life? The principle of letting go.
I think letting go is a form of surrender, and it depends on what you're letting go of. Like, some people are holding on to something that's negative, then that's time to let go. But if you've got something really good in your life, then there's maybe nothing to release. It's about maintenance and bringing more of that. bringing more relaxation into your life, bringing in more love.
And having more gratitude every day.
Having more gratitude, exactly. Gratitude is not something you release. Gratitude is something you want to cultivate, because the moment you are grateful in your life, doors will open and you feel more expansive and more present.
Jojo, what do you think people are looking for, and what can they expect when they come to a space like OhanaJo?
Well, you know, with a name like OhanaJo, it's Hawaiian for Ohana, which means family. I feel that it'd be something we're doing right when we keep hearing people say that they feel really welcome, because, you know, it comes from that Hawaiian word family. So everybody is welcome and everyone is, you know, feeling included. And, you know, we come from different walks of life, we come from different backgrounds, but it really is my heartfelt wish that people who come feel welcome and feel loved, because I feel that if you are going through a rough patch in your life and you're feeling a little bit downtrodden or stressed or even anxious, more and more these days I hear that people are not breathing properly. And it's completely linked to their mood states, their stresses in life, that coming to a place like OhanaJo feels like a okay, I'm here now, and you know, this is me time. So even a mother needs to also be a woman. She needs to find time to just be. And I feel that's what we're trying to create at OhanaJo, a place for you to, you know, heal from the stresses that you might be going through or the challenges in your life. Or it could just be maintenance. So we have people there who are, you know, already rather fit, and they're trying to maintain that level of fitness, but they know that the body is only going to take you so far. You really need to take care of the mind.
That's beautiful. What would your advice be for people who want to come into this wellness space? There are so many young people, especially who are yoga enthusiasts, first and foremost, and they want to start their own yoga studio. There's just so many aspirational people who want to achieve this or pursue this. What would your advice be for them to be mentally prepared for?
Okay, well, I think running any business is going to have its challenges across industries. Like, that's a blanket statement. But it's important to be authentic. I feel that people can sense when something is very business or very commercial, and maybe if a customer doesn't feel cared for, you can't fake it. Like, you know, you either really do come from the heart or you don't. And I feel that if a person had an issue and they stayed back to speak to like one of my teachers, I went into OhanaJo once and it was past midnight and I needed to get something from OhanaJo, and Savvy was upstairs and I didn't realize it because I heard some movement and I was like, "Is that you?" And she goes, yeah, I'm here with a couple. They got some issues. So I was like, okay, and you know, it's past midnight. And you know, I mean, look, if you're paying a teacher by an hour, you know, like, what, that was like 3.5 hours later, and you can't buy that, you know? I mean, she was there because she's got a huge heart and she cares. And there's so many teachers who we work with, I feel, who are more healers within. If there's something they could do to help relieve your suffering, they would. And I feel there's only so much I can do because I'm one person, but it ends up going down to the people who, you know, you engage, the people you work with, everything from the top down. It's my intention that you would come to this space and feel welcome and feel like it's a place to heal. Now, if you are a person who really wants to do more yang, hard-hitting stuff, absolutely nothing wrong with that, because if that's an authentic expression of you as a yoga teacher or a wellness entrepreneur, then you should do that, so that you will attract the right crowd and the right audience for whatever it is that you are doing each and every time. And I feel maybe because I'm more of a healer at heart, the people who are attracted to this space are people who are looking to heal. You know, they're looking to ease physical tension, they're looking to let go of toxic relationships and to breathe better.
And you're essentially creating a community of like-minded individuals, not necessarily like-minded individuals, but people who are after the same thing, which is to have that centered being of mind, body, and soul.
And I think it is needed, because I just had a person from a gym, and a lot of other yoga studio owners do come and visit OhanaJo, which is really humbling and lovely. And it's because what we do is very different, and it's very different. So, and I hear that like a mantra. People go, wow, this is not like your usual studio, because it's not about look, okay, just do some 60-minute workout and off you go. We have some classes that are 2 hours. It takes that long to really speak about the issues you might have, and some classes are almost like counseling, and some are yoga with sound, some are meditation. Let's learn how to breathe so that we can drop into the present moment. And what I would say is, my advice is to be authentic, to really, honor the type of person you are and the type of teachings you want to share. There's so many styles of yoga. I mean, there's so many ways to practice in this field that, there's enough room in this market, in any market, I feel, for you to find your own niche. And though what we're doing is niche, I feel that it's ever growing because there is a lot of mental illness out there. There is a lot of stress. And yeah, so I was just saying that a lot of other studio owners actually feel that it's good that I'm in this space where the emphasis is, okay, learn how to slow down. Because sometimes you got to slow down in order to speed up.
I'd like to end this conversation with your personal mantra. What do you live by every single day?
I have a few. I would say do something that scares you, and really live your life, because no one can do it for you, and to own your own power. And when you really connect with yourself and you connect with your breath, you become so much more self-aware as a human being. So be present. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jojo, for spending your time with us on this beautiful Saturday morning and sharing your insights and wisdom with all of our listeners out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So guys, be authentic, own your own power, and breathe. The way you breathe is the way you live. Thank you so much, Jojo. And if you like our channel, like and subscribe. And until the next episode, guys, thank you so much.